Alright, so let me tell you guys a story. About a year and a half ago, I started off to go to Europe for my first time. I hadn't left the country for about, I don't know, maybe 10 years, except for like Mexico, Canada, and stuff like that. And so I headed off to Europe, but before I did a lot of planning. Okay? And so the first thing I did is I put all of my tech junk in my backpack. I didn't have the drone at the time, but I do now, carry it with me wherever I go. And then I put my clothing in my bag, right? Got all my toiletries packed up. Really planning hard, making sure that I had enough clothes, enough underwear, right? All those things to make the trip and to not have to do any laundry while I was overseas. And of course, I went to the safety deposit box. I got my passport. Does this sound familiar to anybody that hasn't traveled out of the country for a long time and then all of a sudden decides to go out of the country? You overplan, right? And so then I looked up, so I was going to Bulgaria and I was going to Amsterdam. And so I looked up exactly what sort of money I should have when I went there and looked up whether or not I could use a visa or something like that, right? All of these things. And then I finally boarded the plane and I went on this long journey overnight to get to Austria. So I took Austrian Airlines, I went to Austria, I landed in Austria. Trust me, this is going somewhere, guys, I swear. So I landed in Austria, I was hanging out there, and it was mind-blowing, right? Because I'm in this new place. It's not Mexico, it's not Canada, it's not North America. And I got on my last flight, and I touched down, right? I landed, and I was super excited because I'd done everything right. Right? I had gotten on this plane, I had gotten everything packed up, I had everything ready to go, and I got off the plane and I got to the airport and I was ready to leave, right? And I was feeling so good. And then this happened. I freaked out, right? Because I'm looking around the airport and I realized that all I saw were these signs. Okay, has anybody seen these signs before?
Sure.
Okay, we got one here. Anybody else? Alright, so you've seen that sign. Right, so I saw that sign and I was like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do? Because I wanted to leave the airport, but some things went through my head, right? What was I supposed to do? How was I supposed to get out? And the big thing was, oh my god, that person is running, right? So, was I supposed to follow them? Was that an emergency exit? Was I going to be the first American in a long time in that airport to go through an emergency exit and have all of the alarms go off and I'm standing there thinking, what in the world did I just do? Right? Truth is, I was looking for this because I'm an American and I hadn't seen the green sign before. Right? But it turns out that green sign, for those of you that don't know, is the same exact sign that this is, okay? And so I waited for a while and I watched all of those context clues, right? And I saw people walking the direction of the exit and they were walking towards this green sign, right? This one, right? That I knew nothing about before I landed. And I realized that everybody was exiting in a very calm way. There was no fire or anything like that. And so I followed them and I finally made my way out of the airport. Okay, so the sign wasn't predictable for me. Now it's very predictable for everybody else in Europe. So let's talk about the foundation of CTAs. All right, who here knows what a call to action is? Oh, all right, everybody get out. Go to somebody else's stuff. So we're going to talk about the foundation of calls to action, right? And if you already know about it, it's important that we kind of rehash, go back through what exactly a call to action is. We're going to deconstruct it, reconstruct it, and then look at some of the best practices. And hopefully, as you leave here, you'll have a few more things in your toolkit that you can automatically apply to calls to action on your site or on your client sites after you leave. So, here's my working theory of websites. Mendel's working theory of websites. Websites represent the offline world. Who believes that? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? We got 2. 3? All right. Here's an example. This is Austin, Texas. All right? Who's seen this picture before? Who's seen the skyline before? Anybody? All right. So this is the website for Austin, Texas. So I just proved anybody that wasn't raising their hand wrong. Okay? Sorry. I know it's early in the morning to be proved wrong, but okay. Number 2, communication systems are built in the offline world. Now, who thinks I'm full of it when I say this? Because you might say, oh, nobody raised their hand that time, by the way. You might say that Facebook is a communication system, right? And it wasn't built in the offline world. And I would tell you that you're totally wrong, because there are servers that run Facebook that exist in the physical world, right? And you might say, oh, well, Mendel, the internet is all virtual, right? Well, we can abstract this and get really philosophical. That's cool. But at the end of the day, everything exists at its most basic core, at its most basic level in the offline world. How many people agree with me now? How many people did I convince that that's true? All right, not even half of you. That's horrible. All right, number 3. Systems have rules. Okay? Who agrees with this one? Systems have rules. Okay, we're doing much better. Much better. All right, systems have rules. So if we look at these signs, signs are going to come up again and again in this talk. But if we look at signs, you see that this is a system of communication or navigation, and that these signs have rules, right? So the blue shield with the red part on top, matter-of-factly means that you're looking at an interstate marker. If you see that anywhere on the interstate or on the highway, you know to expect an interstate. In the same way, if you see that green sign, it's most likely an exit sign, right? I could go on and on, but you get the point. All right, and then number 4, because of all these things, rules of systems also apply to websites. I know it's a stretch. All right, so here are the 4. Websites represent the offline world. Communication systems are built in the offline world. Systems have rules, and therefore rules of systems also apply to websites. The reason why this is important is because I will plead to you today to take the rules of the offline world, to always look at the rules of the offline world and apply those to the websites that you're creating. And when you do that, you're going to come up with a much more intuitive interface, something that's easier for other people to understand, because they use these rules in their everyday existence. All right, so a website is a communication tool. I'll ask you one more time. Who here thinks that a website is a communications tool? 100%. This is getting good. All right, so I would argue a website should end with action, right? Because even if you're trying to give somebody information, the thing that you want them to do is read the information, right? Or if you're trying to get somebody to purchase something, obviously, that's the action. If you are trying to get somebody to donate, that's the action. But you're going to communicate things on the way there. And so a call to action, therefore, is asking for an action. All right, enough of this silly lecturing. Let's get into building a call to action. But we needed that basic understanding so that we could get here. All right, so when you create a website, it should be based on a business or organizational vision, right? It should be a cause or a mission, whatever it is, right? And you should communicate the vision, cause, or mission. You're going to look at an example of this in a second. It's one that maybe you'll recognize. And then the last part is you have to make it easy for a user to take contextually relevant action. And this part, contextually relevant, is extraordinarily important. So, who's seen this website before? Oh, thank goodness. If you hadn't, I would be worried. Oh, that was pretty cool. I heard myself come out of that speaker. So this is the WordPress.org website for anybody that doesn't know, hasn't been there, and has used WP CLI instead of this website to download WordPress in the past. we're going to get back to this in a second, but you'll see that there are a couple calls to action on this page. We'll break down why these actually work and what we can do to make them not work. So, WordPress, mission, to democratize publishing through open source GPL software. Easy enough. So, on this page, you'll see at the very top, we talk about WordPress as web software you can use to create a beautiful website, blog, or app. Right? That describes the mission of the site. So put that in there, and then the call to action here is download WordPress. So the first two, it turns out, everybody does really, really well. Okay? We figure out, normally, what it is that we want our businesses to stand for, what it is that we want our organizations or our philanthropies to stand for. We usually are pretty good at communicating that, sometimes a little too verbosely, but we can communicate that. The last thing, we don't do very well. We don't do it well all the time, and that is making it easy for users to take contextually relevant action. So, another story. I used to live in Iowa City. Who here is from New York? Okay. Who's not from New York? That was a better question. Wow. Okay. So 50% of y'all are not from New York. So I come from Iowa. I moved to Texas about 1.5 years ago. And when I lived in Iowa, I lived in Iowa City. It's the home of the Iowa Hawkeyes. It's a college town. And whenever I would have friends come to visit me, I would say, hey guys, just take the Iowa City exit. And they would say, cool, Mendel. I'll take the Iowa City exit. Now what? Well, that's a really good question. Because this is the sign that you see when you first see the Iowa City exit. It says, Iowa City, next 3 exits, and you're like, yes, Mendel. Then do I turn right? What's going to happen then? Right? Because these exits are spaced like 2 miles apart. So then the next sign comes, and it says, Iowa City, Coralville campus dorms, highway access. Now, if you go there right now, I created this from memory, so don't like true it up and then send me a tweet and be like, hey Mendel, this is totally wrong. Your talk was bad because you had the wrong words on it. We'll get through it. But you see this sign next, right? So then I'm able to tell the people that are coming to visit me, hey, go to the Coralville exit, right? Then it's a little bit more specific. And so street signs, and in particular exit signs, I realize are a whole lot like calls to action. Right? So in this case, Iowa City, great, we know where we're going, and then there are numbers. And those are the numbers of the exits, right? And those exit numbers are the actionable part of this particular sign. So you know exactly where to turn, right? Now, if we don't have exit numbers, we don't have any action. We don't know what to do, right? Just as Iowa City, there are 3 places here. Enjoy yourself. The second is that the green sign gives context, right? So you know because it's a green sign that it's going to be an exit. We're getting to websites in a second. But you know that because it's a green sign, it's going to be an exit. And the green, by the way, makes it very discoverable. Because it turns out that if you put a blue sign on top of clouds, right, it's very difficult to see. In fact, if you were to create a black sign, it would be difficult to see at night. Right? Anybody, any disagreements there? Good. All right, so next example is predictable. So this is a sign. It's on a post. In the US, it'll be on the right side of the road. You'll see the sign with a post, with a metal slab, and it will look the same way each time. And if you happen to see a llama wearing a sign around its neck, you would say, I have no idea what that sign is about. It is unpredictable. 0 laughs, disappointing. And the last thing is that it provides a clear path. All right, so if you look at Coralville campus dorms, highway access, if you got rid of those, you have the action, you know what exit to take, but you have absolutely no idea where you're going. Right? You know that you're going somewhere in Iowa City. All right. So, we're going to talk about things being actionable, discoverable, predictable, and clear. So, to be optimal, your call to action needs to be all four of those. And we'll go through each one and what the attributes of those different pieces are and how to apply those to a website. So, first thing is actionable. Is the action stated? Is it clear? A lot of people will create calls to action that have nothing to do with the action or don't state something clearly at all. So instead of buy now, they'll say add this, right? Because they think they're being interesting or quirky or fun. And it turns out that you actually need to state your call to action very clearly and very explicitly for people to take action all the time on it. The action also, so it has to be clear and direct, and the completion of the action should be measurable. Because there's no way to determine your success, whether or not you did a good job or a bad job of directing people to a particular action if you can't measure it. So, this was the example, right? It needs to be actionable, it has numbers. Without the numbers, it's not actionable. So this is the WordPress website. You can see here, download is actionable, right? It's telling you to do something. You click on it because you know that you're going to get a copy of the WordPress software. Now, what if I put get in on it? Do you think that would increase or decrease the conversion of this particular button? Decrease. All right, we've got laughter. Strangely, the llama didn't get laughter, but this button did. It's baffling. Right, so this would decrease. Now, it's possible that maybe there's some strange affinity for this particular phrase in this group of people. I doubt it, but it's possible. And if that were the case, then this would work, right? So there are quirky things. That's why we test stuff like this. So anyway, make it clear. So from this, download, right, this is the wrong way to do it. Get in on it. Okay, discoverable. Is it visually enticing? Can you see it? If you remember, does the rest of the page lead to the action? Okay? Or is this download button just in the middle of nowhere? Okay, so if you remember this sign, right, it's green, provides context, it's discoverable because it doesn't blend into the clouds, and so if you look at this is blue, and here's the website again. So blue is discoverable. What do you guys think I'm going to do now? Magic. The button went away. Didn't know if it kept up with me. So the download WordPress button is now white, right? Not as easy to see. In fact, in some cases, some people will